The final issue of the Trail of Shadows comic finally gave us our best look at the creatures that have been attacking the Jedi Order in the High Republic era. After investigating the mysterious death of Loden Greatstorm, Jedi investigator Imric Kaftor and Republic Private Eye Cyan Holt finally captured one of the beings responsible, Dr. Uttersond. He gives them a handwritten note on paper, which is weird in Star Wars, and it says, pierce the veil, Shrii Ka Rai, Shrii Ka Rai. Uttersond explains that the writing came from someone who was once a Jedi, and it is about the creatures who are known as the Shrii Ka Rai, which translated means Eaters of the Force. Others call them the Nameless. Their presence alone causes hallucinations and madness in Force users, which we've been able to see for ourselves. And we know Marchion Ro has an artifact that he can use to control them. Then Uttersond is conveniently interrupted by the destruction of Starlight Beacon, and he says several of the creatures are currently on board the station. Imric and Cyan board to help any stranded Jedi, but they also seek out one of the Nameless to learn as much as they can. In a great scene, Cyan describes what she sees to Imric because she can see it for what it truly is, while he only sees hallucinations. It's very Cthulhu-esque. Imric attacks one of the hallucinations he sees and is able to sever a claw of the creature that he can use to study. And Master Torben Buck also hands over his blood-soaked robes for analysis. All of his robes, for some reason. Buckets of blood? More like buckets of muscles? Damn! So, the Nameless, or the Eaters of the Force, are monsters whose simple presence around a Force user drives them mad. Every Jedi encounter with one of them has been slightly different. I've been guessing since we first saw them in the novel The Rising Storm that I believe it shows someone their greatest fear. Bel-Zettifar experienced the sensation of falling from a great height, which we knew he feared. Imric saw several visions of his terrifying-looking childhood nanny, who actually sang a creepy lullaby about the Shrii Ka Rai. The Nameless also reduce a Jedi's ability to use the Force. I don't know if that's because they are just completely inundated with fear, or if the creatures are sucking the life force out of any Force user, or both. The name Eaters of the Force definitely suggests that could be the case, and the end result is the calcification of their victims. I want to bring up another creature from Star Wars Legends, the Salamiri, real quick, because I've had some people ask me about the similarities they share with the Nameless. Salamiri were salamander-like creatures from the original Thrawn trilogy that could basically cancel out the Force around them. That was somewhat controversial, since the Force is created by all life, it doesn't selectively ignore some creatures. While completely valid in the old Star Wars EU, the Salamiri and other beings that existed outside of the Force, like the Yuuzhan Vong, did not fit with George Lucas's views on the Force. The Vong were actually planned to have some kind of presence in the Clone Wars before the series was cancelled, but they would have been changed so that they were no longer immune to the Force. So how are the Eaters of the Force different from the Salamiri? How do they still fit within George Lucas's views on the Force? Well, they definitely exist within the Force, and they appear to thrive off of it. Their effects on a Force user do seem similar to what the Salamiri would do to a Jedi in Legends, basically cutting them off from the Force, but it's not because the Nameless are immune to it or anything like that. It's because they are either actively consuming the Force from a Jedi, or they're inundating them with so much fear that they simply aren't able to keep their balance to use the Force as well as they should be able to. So with that out of the way, let's see if we can't figure out more about the Nameless from the clues we've been given. Jumping back into that lullaby I mentioned, it goes, Shrii Ka Rai, Ka Rai, we're coming to take you away. Shrii Ka Rai, Ka Rai, we're coming to take you away. They'll do what they can and they'll do what they must, but when they find you, all you'll be is dust. This feels like the old trope of a nursery rhyme used to scare children into behaving that of course winds up being based in some truth. Dr. Uttersond's mention of the mysterious writing coming from someone who was once a Jedi immediately made me think of Darth Krall. He was originally called Radaki and became a member of the Lost 20, Jedi Masters who peacefully left the Order. He left the Jedi because he felt they should retain their family ties and wealth. He seems to have been created specifically for the High Republic, even though he was first mentioned in previous works by High Republic authors, and we don't know much else about him, except that he tamed something called the Nightmare Conjunction, which itself has some ties to the Drengir. A group called the Nightmare Conjunction could very likely have a connection to the Nameless, creatures that feed on fear and nightmares. The audio drama Dooku Jedi Lost, written by High Republic author Cavan Scott, makes a brief mention of the creatures as Dooku recalls his time as a youngling at the Jedi Temple. He said, "While my clanmates huddled together after lessons, swapping tales of the Nameless or whatever phantasmagoria had seized their overactive imaginations, I could be found ensuring my tunic was sharply pressed and boots polished." So nothing huge there, but the Nameless are definitely known to young Jedi 150 or so years after the events of the first phase of the High Republic. Scott also wrote a quick reference to the Nameless in the comic Return to Vader's Castle, where a character named Hud mentions a scary story he knows called The Curse of the Nameless. And High Republic author Claudia Gray included a prophecy in her book Master and Apprentice that stated, "Only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless." That could be a red herring, because the word Nameless isn't capitalized in the prophecy, and if the Jedi sinned against this group, I wouldn't think it would be the creatures that are currently attacking them. But it will definitely be fun to revisit this prophecy as we learn more. So we still know very little about the Eaters of the Force, but for now my best guess is that Darth Krall had some hand in their creation. He supposedly tamed the Nightmare Conjunction, so maybe under his control they were able to pierce the veil, as the note said, to create a being that's like a manifestation of pure fear. That seems like a dark side thing to do. Maybe the Drengir are even offshoots or evolutions of the Nameless, a failed experiment or something. I don't know, it's all just shots in the dark for now, but I expect we'll still learn more about the Shrii Ka Rai in Phase 2 of the High Republic, even though we're going backwards in the timeline. And before I wrap up, I just want to give a shout out to Daniel Jose Older and Dave Watcher and everyone who worked on Trail of Shadows. The writing, the art, everything about that comic was phenomenal. I would love to see more noir-style stories set in Star Wars. The genre was a perfect fit, but the characters were also awesome, investigating a genuinely captivating mystery that made my jaw drop multiple times. It had some of the best poodoo moments I can recall in recent Star Wars history. It is one of the best Star Wars comics I have ever read, and I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't. But that's it for today. Let me know your best Nameless theories down in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our High Republic coverage, and consider checking out our Patreon page for even more. We've got comic reactions and book clubs anytime new content is released. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.